Hey Journey More, in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to properly layer your clothing for cold weather hikes, so let's get started.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now.
So if you're here and you're really just wanting some recommendations of specific clothing for each layer, in the description of our video we're going to have full outfits laid out of products that we recommend to layer up properly for cold weather hiking for both men and women. So you can go there, see those. If you're that type of person that just wants to get it, go for that. Now if you're wanting to really dig in and learn what each layer means and what you need to be looking for specifically while you're layering up, then stay tuned because we're going to jump into all of that. But before we get into the different layers and the examples of each, there are 3 tips that you have to keep in mind when it comes to layering. The first one, and you'll hear this from a lot of people, is no cotton. No cotton at all. There are some cotton hybrids that could be effective, but for the most part you don't want any cotton on your body, because when cotton gets wet, it does not wick the sweat away from your skin. It will actually stick to your skin and it will no longer be effective at keeping you warm. So you want to stay away from cotton altogether. The second thing is you need to be prepared for all different types of weather, especially when you're hiking up to higher elevations. Weather can be completely different on top of a mountain rather than at the base of the mountain. So you've got to be prepared for that, so make sure you have plenty of layers for every type of weather as you're climbing up. And then the third tip is your biggest issue is not being cold, it's actually getting wet. And this is not just getting wet because it's raining or snowing, this is getting wet because you're sweating underneath everything. Because as soon as you stop moving, hypothermia can set in very quickly if you're in below freezing temperatures. So being able to shed layers in order to regulate your body heat is very, very important. So you got to keep these 3 things in mind at all times when you're preparing for hikes and when you're actually on the hike. It's very difficult for us to pinpoint exactly what you need because everybody's situation and body type is different. So we're going to give you a good base to build off of. Now the 3 layers are your base layer, your insulating layer, and then your outer layer. Now this doesn't mean that you're only going to have 3 layers of clothing. You may need more than that as it gets colder. But your base layer, that is the layer that's on your skin. So we want something that's going to be able to wick the sweat away and dry quickly. And what I mean by wicking the sweat is as you sweat, the material will catch it and actually move it to the top of the fabric. So that way it's not touching your body, so your body can regulate its heat well. The type of materials you're going to want to look for are polyester, merino wool, or a silk. And then a couple of tips here is if you can find a base layer shirt that has thumb holes in it, that will actually allow you to pull that sleeve up into the gloves that you're wearing, which will keep snow and rain from getting to your skin. And then also, the thinner the material is, the quicker it's going to dry and the easier it's going to wick the sweat away. However, it's not as warm. So you're going to have to decide what you need based on the weather that you're going into. Now your insulating layer, that's going to be your down, your fleece, your synthetic jackets. What I've got on here is a Patagonia Nano Puff, and this is actually what we recommend for that insulating layer. This is a perfect jacket. It's a synthetic material, and so even if it gets wet, it's going to continue to make you warm and regulate that body heat as needed. Now, down is great, and it's really the best at keeping you warm. However, if it gets wet, it's not as effective as the synthetic material. So that's why we actually recommend this jacket and others that are like it, because it's going to continue to work even if it's wet. And this is a great layer because it's still thin, So that way you can fit an outer layer or even another insulating layer on top of it if you need that, and it'll be very easy. Now in terms of bottoms, on top of that base underwear layer that you're gonna have, you're gonna want some kind of pants that are that water resistant or waterproof shell. And usually those two layers will work well. If you need to put another one on top of that base layer, if you need an insulating layer, you can do that. But a lot of those pants that have that water resistance or waterproof material will have insulating layers in it. And so that will help in keeping you warm, so that way you can just have those two layers, and usually that'll work. Now your third layer, that outer layer, that shell, that is meant to keep the rain, the snow, the elements out. It should be windproof and waterproof to be extremely effective. Now, a couple examples that I have here is I actually have a Helly Hansen. This is the crew neck mid-layer jacket. This is actually a great outer shell. It's got some insulation in it that will actually help keep you warm, but it's waterproof, it's windproof. It's a very high quality jacket for a good price. And so I'll actually throw this on over my Nano Puff, and this is a great layer setup for me. Now, another option that you could do is something that's more wind and water resistant. And this Columbia jacket that I have, this is the Ascender jacket. This is actually a great outer layer that is that water resistant and wind resistant. So not fully waterproof or windproof, but it still works well. And so it's a little more breathable than the Helly Hansen that I have here. So if you need a more breathable material, you can go this route, and it's actually very effective. Now I could also use this as another mid insulating layer. So I could put this on top of what I have now and then throw that on if I needed some extra layers because it was extra cold. So these are some great options for those layers. For your feet, you need some wool socks. So I've got some Omni wool socks here. These have worked great for me. Wool socks are great because, again, they're not cotton. They're gonna keep you warm even if they get wet. And so you'll just have to look at the thickness of this. You could put some silk liners underneath it to add some warmth, and that could usually help. And then on top of that, your boots gotta be waterproof. Get some waterproof boots because really keeping yourself dry is so, so important. And just make sure that your socks aren't too thick to the point that your boot is so snug that it starts cutting off circulation to your feet. That will keep your blood from flowing, and that keeps you from being able to regulate that heat properly. So you've got to make sure that you've got a good sized sock to go into your boots. And then another piece down there on your legs is getting some gaiters over your boots. This is really if you're in snow. As you're walking through snow, if it's higher than your boots, it'll come into your boots. But if you got some gaiters, it'll actually help keep that out. And then if you could get a neck gaiter or a face mask to cover your nose and your mouth, and something that's going to cover your ears as well, something like a beanie or a toboggan. Again, you want that material that's not going to be cotton. And so something like this to put over your head and ears is perfect. And then having a hood on one of your jackets is very effective as well because you can pull that over. So then really everything on your body is covered up. And then for your hands, doing some type of fleece glove, and then actually putting a mitten or shell glove over top of that is incredibly effective. My hands get so cold so easily, and so I really have to double layer on those gloves to really protect. And you might even need to triple layer on those gloves depending on the temperatures that you're in. But a good fleece, thin or mid-weight glove, and then a shell mitten heavyweight on top of that is going to be very effective. And we'll leave links to all these different examples in the description below for you guys to easily go check those out yourself. that's pretty much the basics to cold weather layering. We hope that this video was helpful to you guys, and we hope that you got something out of it. If you've got any suggestions or thoughts, you can leave those in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you guys to like the video if it was helpful, and then subscribe to the channel. We've got new videos coming out every week, so you don't want to miss those. And a lot of these videos are based on the season that we're in. So we're really trying to be active to help you guys. So make sure to subscribe, come journey more with us, and we'll see you next time.